Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Mom Success Factor panel, How Moms Make Workplaces Better. My name is Hiba Abdullahi. I am the social media manager here at the Mom Project, co-hosting with you guys today. I'm so excited for you guys to get this panel. We have a great panel of mom bosses, so let's jump right into it. We are going to start with an intro on the Mom Project if you guys are not familiar. The Mom Project is about progress. We're here to create economic opportunities for our moms, dads, allies, and provide companies with consistent, scalable access to the most comprehensive community of highly skilled, gender, and ethically diverse talent in the United States. I'm honestly so proud to work here and be a part of this team. We'll start with the introduction of the panel. We'll move into a discussion about moms in the workplace and how companies can support them. And then we'll conclude with the Q&A from the attendees. So please leave any questions you have in the chat and we'll get to it at the end. I also want to talk about Work Labs, which is our research and insights division at the Mom Project. With gender and equity process at risk due to the COVID-19 health crisis, Work Labs is to understand more about the value of keeping moms within the workplace. They discovered that moms in the workplaces as managers, coworkers, as leaders results to a more positive employee experience, greater workplace inclusivity, heightened productivity with the increase in retention, which directly translates into better business outcomes and company culture. Today, we're so excited to have these leaders, these moms from various companies and industries across different industries bring in insights from their unique career journeys and tips for companies to best support and empower working mothers right now. I'm going to have the panel introduce themselves. So I want to start with my CEO, Allison.
Thank you so much, Hiba. Hello, everyone. Allison Robinson, founder and CEO of the Mom Project. I started this company, about 5 years ago while I was on maternity leave with my son, Asher, who turned 5 in July. And it has been just an incredible 5 years getting to build this business. The Mom Project is a talent marketplace, and we connect our community of over 300,000 women across the country with incredible work opportunities at great companies like Zendesk and Etsy. And we are all about unlocking the economic potential of mothers in the workplace. We know that mothers face a motherhood penalty, and we know that we're leaving a lot of talent behind by not unlocking this potential. So it has been just so incredible to see the growth of the company. We've been able to triple the business for the last 3 years. We've raised about 36 million in venture capital, and we are so committed to solving this problem. We're looking at the backslide that's been occurring over the last 6 months and how disproportionately women and mothers have been impacted by the pandemic. So we feel a greater responsibility than ever. And I just feel so honored and delighted by having such an incredible panel of speakers today. These are all women who I sincerely admire, who have elevated to very senior leadership positions within their respective organizations. And to me, just really show the power of mom. So I'm so delighted to be here with you today.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, so I'm going to have Smita. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Allison, what a wonderful project. And wow, kudos. That venture capital funding and the Mom Project Zendesk is really proud to support you. So well done to you and your team. And yes, hi, everyone. Smita Pillai. I am the Vice President and Global Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Zendesk. I am a mother to 3 kids under the age of 10 and 1 large Rottweiler who is bigger than my 3 kids combined. So if you know Rottweilers, they're huge dogs. So I essentially have 4 children, and anyone is going to walk through the door. So if you hear anything, apologies in advance. I am originally from India, so I was born and raised there, but I've had the privilege to live and travel across the globe, both before and after my children were born. Very, very different feeling. The mom penalty is for real. I'm excited to be on this panel of super moms. It's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to hearing from everyone. And as I work to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion at Zendesk globally, my kids keep me humble and grounded always. So that's what I'm looking forward to sharing with you all.
Love it. Okay, Liz, can you introduce yourself to the group, please?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Spector Loudon. I go by Liz. I am the Assistant General Counsel, Employment, and Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Etsy. So I'm Etsy's Employment Counsel and Head of DEI. Let's see, about me. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. That's where I've been living for the last 13 years of my life. I was born in Philadelphia. I am not in Brooklyn or Philadelphia right now, as my wife and kids and I have relocated to a cabin in the woods since March. So this is like a very different life for me. I've led a lot of different lives, I think, and that's something that I think I want to share with the panel. I have two kids, Morris, who's 5, he goes by Mo, and Talia. Talia is 2. And I've been a school teacher. I've been a big law firm attorney for 6 years and billed by these 6 minutes of an hour increment. And now I'm an in-house attorney and head of D&I. And not all jobs are the same. And being a mom in all jobs is really not the same. And so part of what I wanted to talk about today, I think, is how to find a career path that works for you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And Rebecca.
Thank you. Really excited to be able to share the panel with all these amazing and inspiring ladies and moms and business professionals, maybe not always in that order and not always well balanced, as we all know. I am the CEO of the global business segment for Randstad. Randstad's the largest staffing company in the world, actually, these days, which is quite exciting, but it does mean we employ lots of people, about 750,000 people on any given day out on temp assignments. I myself have grown children, actually. So my daughters are 36 and 34. I was a very young mom. I had my daughters at 20 and 22. They're moms and of their own little ones today. And I think I have a little bit of a different perspective here because I had to live it, and I am proof you can survive, and particularly as a single mom for a long time. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm also proof that it does take a village. So all of us helping each other, supporting each other, having great families, and ultimately finally finding a great husband by your side or spouse that is supportive in that plight. And so, but I think also for me now watching this through the lens of an employer and seeing the struggles of our employees who are going to work every day, and even my own 2 daughters who have a 5, a 6, and a 2-year-old, and in this crisis, watching them struggle and then taking my learnings and figuring out how I can continue to help the community of moms and parents in general. So thank you for having me today, Allison. I'm excited to work with the Mom Project.
Love it. And then last but not least, Deanna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Craighead. I am a senior manager of software engineering for Disney Parks specifically. So I support applications in both Walt Disney World, Disneyland, as well as Tokyo Disney as well. Been at Disney for 9 years, been in my career about 22 years. I am also a huge advocate for women in technology, as well as underrepresented groups in technology. There's not a lot of us, so I'm an advocate for that as well. But what I'm most excited about being here today is that I don't talk much about me being a single mother. And I think when I was joining this panel, there were a few people that were shocked, like, you're a single mom. And so when I'm not doing that, I am raising a 16-year-old now, and I've been raising her alone since she was 4. And so I'm really excited to talk about how, that has made me stronger, and also why I haven't really talked about that, and why sometimes that is looked at as a negative. So just really excited to be here today and share some of those stories of how it really has helped drive me to be more successful.
Thank you. What an amazing panel we have. I'm so excited for this. So I'm going to throw it over to Allison and have her go into her journey of working motherhood. And then I'll be back for the Q&A. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you, Hiba. Thank you for being our wonderful MC today. So I'd like to start out by just saying, I think, as much of our community, many of women in our community can relate to, is that motherhood is such a critical inflection moment for so many when it comes to their career. We know in the US, about 40% of American women actually leave the workforce within 2 years of having a child, and many more will seek out a new employer that perhaps gives them more flexibility that they desire or greater benefits. And some decide to leave corporate America altogether and determined to forge their own path like I did, through entrepreneurship or freelancing, etc. So I think it's exciting. I get really excited about the nonlinear career path and kind of the openness that I see employers really embrace that, because often life is not linear, and so neither are careers. But I think a common thread that we hear from moms is that it almost feels like all of the stars have to be aligned to kind of make this work and life integration happen and work. And so, Liz, I'd love to start with you. Clearly, you are in a very demanding role in your job at Etsy. You have a lot of responsibility. So talk to me a bit. How do you make it work? You've got 2 young children at home, a very demanding career. Like, how is that working? And tell us a little bit about your support system at home.
Sure, Allison. Well, the first thing is it doesn't all work well all the time. So I got to blow dry my hair today because I'm on this panel. I don't get to blow dry most of the time. And so, this is going to be the panel version of me too. And I think it's really important to just put that out there. It is a struggle right now. And it's been a struggle the whole time. And I'll talk a little bit about that. This year has been a particular struggle. Also, I want to just say, full disclosure, I have a wife who is working as a personal trainer right now, and she gave up a lot of clients and a lot of business to plug in much more with the childcare and remote school responsibilities and household management. So I have a huge support system at home in the form of really a stay-at-home partner right now, which is new since the pandemic because she used to see a full slate of clients. So when I was at my law firm, I remember a moment when my son was about 2 and I happened to get off early because I had a meeting downtown and I was going to steal some time, and stealing time at a law firm meant it was 5 p.m. and I was going to leave the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to go pick him up at daycare, and I'd never done that. And it was raining, and I said, he's going to be so happy to see mommy at the daycare. And I go there and it's 5 p.m. and I'm standing, and the daycare's got a security button and a key lock and a door call button. And it's pouring, and I'm getting emotional because I realize I don't know how to get into the daycare. I've never picked him up at 2 years old. And I'm having this moment that we've read about, right? In like Atlantic or the New York Times or somewhere. It's like working mom cries in the street in the rain because, and I thought to myself, like, I'm really proud of myself. I've done really well in my career. I feel proud, but I feel sad, because this isn't quite working for me. The fact that this has been such a desperate struggle. And I realized, like, in that moment that I had a great career, but it wasn't letting me be a mom that I really wanted to be. And so part of my shift to Etsy, yes, I have a big role and a lot of responsibility, but I have the most supportive work environment you could imagine. My managers on both sides, I have a legal manager and an HR manager, are both working moms. That is huge. Our leadership team has tons of working moms. We partner with the Mom Project. We are very pro working mom, working parent, gender neutral parental leave, and I don't bill by the hour anymore. So it's still a big job, and I still feel proud of myself. I still feel like I have a career, but not one that was crushing me and keeping me from being like a mom at all. I mean, I barely saw my children before. So I have a lot more support now at work and at home, and things are working better. And I guess the last thing I'll say is something my manager said to me, which helps a lot. I think about it every day. She said, you're not going to be the best lawyer, head of D&I, wife, mom, sister, and friend every day. You're not going to hit it out of the park on every single one. Some days you'll be a great lawyer and you'll crap it up in the mom department. Some days you're going to be a great mom and your wife won't be so happy with you. So do your best and focus where you have to focus each day, but give yourself a little bit of grace. So that's my manager saying that to me. So bless her.
That's amazing, Liz. I really appreciate your honesty. I think for so many of us, that mom guilt is so real. For me, right before the pandemic, I was raising our Series B. I was spending about every week away from my family, pitching venture capitalists, and spending most nights away from my family during the week. And I think the silver lining of the last 6 months has been getting to be there, because I felt like you did. I was not there for school drop off or pick up. And at the Mom Project, we have a tremendous amount of respect for what I call the unpaid labor and the caregivers who make this infrastructure work. For me, the secret to me being able to do this, the travel, has been my nanny Ruth. And none of this would be possible without her. She has equity in the Mom Project because that's how important she is. She's the glue that holds our household together. So I just have to put a plug for all of the caregivers. It might not be paid work, but it is important work. Amazing. Okay, so I'd like to switch gears a little bit. We know that being a working mom is tough. In fact, that Working Mother actually reported that working moms spend about 98 hours of labor across their jobs at home, taking care of their children, the household chores, etc. And we're all trying to put our best self forward for our employers, for our families, and trying to do a lot. But despite this, I think many of us feel the motherhood penalty. We know that mothers are less likely to be considered for jobs, advancement opportunities. And if we look at the gender pay gap, by and large, it is actually a motherhood pay penalty. Deanna, can you share with us some of the challenges that you face being a working mom?
Yeah, so the first challenge was, of course, going through a divorce. So that was like super challenging, and just the emotional and mental turmoil that you go through going through that. And then, having the reality that you are going to be a single mother and how are you going to balance work and motherhood. And so, pushing through, but also me being highly ambitious and coming out of college with this career path of, by the time I'm a certain age, I'm going to be the CEO or CIO of some company, and knowing that I had to put that on hold for a minute, like put a pin in it, because I had to make the decision and the choice to say at 5:30, I'm going to be off of work. And I work in technology. So, if you're working in a world where you're supporting systems that are up 24/7, you have to make the choice that you can't do that at this moment. So, getting past that first, right, is kind of like, man, I had this setback in my career, and not feeling disappointed in that. And then also making sure you're not like taking that out on your child, like looking at your child like they're a burden, because they're not. Like, my daughter is the best thing that has ever happened in my life. So getting through that, and then making the decision to move to Orlando. I didn't know a single soul here, not a single person. And, prayer and faith, and saying, I'm going to step out and I'm going to do this. And it was the best thing I could have done for us, because it is such a family environment. And, my coworkers and everyone has been very supportive of me being a single mom. However, there's a little bit of a negative spin to that sometimes, because when I got to a point where she got older and I was ready to put that fast track back in place, then they look at you like you're not ready for that role, or you can't handle that role because you're a single mom. And I've had that told to me, where they thought they were looking out for me. So I'm not going to say that person was being a bad person. They thought they were looking out for me by saying, oh, I didn't consider you for that because I know your situation at home, which is how they framed it. They didn't say you're a single mom, but, and me having to educate, people by saying, like, you don't get to make that decision for me. If you give me the opportunity based off of skills, and you let me make the decision to choose whether I want to take that on or not. So getting past that and pushing through it, but then finding ways to balance that in a fun way. So, I take my daughter a lot of times when I travel. If it's feasible, and a lot of times when we roll out a project, luckily they're in the summertime, so I will grab her and put her on the plane. And when she got to be a teenager, I take her with me. I took her with me to Tokyo last year. And so it's finding ways to overcome and say, I can still do this and I can still push my career forward, but finding ways to balance. And luckily I also have a family. A lot of them are beginning to move here, but when they didn't live here, my mother would get on a plane and come down and keep my daughter when I needed to. So challenges in the beginning, but just finding ways to push through it. And now I'm happy to be back on the path of, all right, I'm ready to make it to the CIO role.
I love that. Yes, that's the energy I need today. I'm curious, Deanna, that's incredible. And now being on the other side of it as a manager, I'm curious how like those challenges and people making those assumptions on your behalf, like how has that influenced how you lead?
It actually plays a big part. And I definitely feel like me being a mom and going through that, like I said, I am a big advocate for women in tech. So for many years, I was the only female like on a team, so people don't always even know how to deal with being like a mom sitting in a room when everyone else is a male. But my team, I have several women on the team. 2 of them on my team are moms, but the fathers are fathers too. Like everybody's a parent, right? So making sure that I lead my team as individuals. I make sure that I talk to them. You're not just here to deliver a project, but making sure that, hey, there's a pandemic going on. Everybody's at home raising their kids with, writing code with their child on their lap or helping homeschool. And so me making sure that I take that into consideration, that I'm not holding them back or penalizing them because they are a mom, but also making sure that they have balance. Like making sure that, you haven't taken time off. I've noticed you haven't taken time off. You're capped on your vacation. You need to take time off, things like that. But, because sometimes we feel as moms, if we do take that time off, we're looked at negatively. So making sure that I'm leading them the right way and trying to take into consideration that, I'm not going to penalize or hold anybody back because they're raising children. So.
Well, your team is very lucky to have you as their leader. One just quick question I wanted to circle back on. When you introduced yourself, you shared something which I thought was really interesting, which is that your colleagues were actually quite surprised that you would be on a panel talking about working motherhood. So I'm curious what has changed maybe recently that you feel more empowered to kind of lean into your identity as a mother.
So let me clarify that. I wouldn't necessarily say all of my colleagues, because if you know me, you know that I'm a mom and I'm a single mother, and they know my daughter. Like I said, I bring her. She's almost a part of the team. Like they see her, that she's around, she's everywhere. But I do a lot of work in STEM outreach, diversity inclusion. So when I am on panels and I'm just talking about myself, I don't bring in the factor that I'm a mother. And this was really the first time I realized I was doing that. Like it's almost like there's a cutoff. Like if I don't know you personally, you don't know that I'm a mom. But like if it's just professional, I'm on a panel, I didn't even have in my profile, like when she's not working, she's raising her daughter and traveling. Like I just kept it very separate. And I it's something that now I have to make sure that it's a part of me, and I need to bring that into the fold, because I did an interview for a student who was interviewing me about my journey, and I didn't talk about being a mom. So when I posted this, she said, you didn't put that part in the story. Like, I didn't know you were a single mom. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why I don't really talk about that. So, I'm happy to be here and to really share that side of me now.
I love that. I think I just really relate to that because I think it used to be that you sort of leave that aspect of yourself when you go to work. And I think now there's just a shift that's such a core piece of my identity that I just think it's becoming more talked about and celebrated in the workplace. So thank you so much for sharing that. Rebecca, would love to chat with you a bit. You also were a single mom, have elevated to such a senior role within Randstad. Talk to me, what have been some of the key challenges that you faced throughout your career as a working mother?
Thanks. Thank you. So maybe before I do that, I would just like to say something to all the moms out there, just from experience. And that is just to please to forgive yourself. Because I know from my own experience, I love what Elizabeth said about grace, give yourself grace. You really have to forgive yourself, because I will tell you from experience that all the guilt you all feel, all, even the panelists, but everyone who's on this, listening to this today, and I can tell from all the chat comments, all of us carry so much guilt. Your kids will not hold that against you. They just won't. And you don't know that now, but you will know that someday. And I will just, if I could share like 2 stories that I think would be great for everyone to hear. So like all of you, I was late picking them up from school. I had forgotten, I don't know how many lunches. I so resonate with the, how do you get into the daycare? My mom used to pick my kids up. I lost my kid once. I may have done it all, but my youngest daughter, I missed her first day of kindergarten. And I was just beside myself because I missed the first day of kindergarten. You guys know how that goes. And I had, my whole family, I must have sent like 20 people there. My daughter's 34 years old. She doesn't remember that I missed her first day of kindergarten. She doesn't remember. She just remembers there were a lot of people there. She's to this, and I don't tell her, I don't admit to it, but if she was on here now, she's going to know. But they just, that's not what they remember. And then so I'll fast forward to a story about my granddaughter who's 6. Her name is Enza. And so now keep in mind, I still always worked, and then my daughters have always worked. Also, they're working moms, and her aunts work. She doesn't know any other role model. So the other day I called her. I live in Texas. She lives in Northern California. I said, Enza, this is a really big day. We elected a female vice president. This is big news. And I'm on FaceTime with her, and she calls me Noni, and she says, yeah, Mom told me that too. What's the big deal? I don't understand. And so when I hung up the phone, I realized it was not a big deal to her because she doesn't know any better. Because all of her role models are strong working moms and working females. So to say to her it's a big deal that the vice president is a female, she expects that. That's her expectation. So when all of you are feeling really guilty or tired or all the things that come along with what you do, don't underestimate the impact you have, because the little girl who's 6 years old, who in her mind, it is not a big deal that our vice president is a female because she doesn't know any better, because she expects that. That's what you're accomplishing. That's what all the hard work is for. So, those are just 2 stories if I could leave everybody with, and, other than being an example of getting through it and acknowledging that it's super hard. And I don't know if you would have it any other way, because I think at the end of the day, you're raising the kind of people, we're all raising the kind of people who can help change the world. And I think some of it means, we have to carry the burden. I think employers, though, being a big employer, have a lot to do with this. I saw something in the chat about moms that are breastfeeding. Companies today, those of you who are in leadership positions, there should be breastfeeding pods. Those should be commonplace. If they're not commonplace in today's workplace, man, you are working for the wrong company. That's way behind. I think employers have a responsibility to provide sabbaticals, benefits at lower reduced working hours, and other things that make a mom's job returning to work easier.
That's amazing. Thank you, Rebecca. Incredible stories. Great. So one of the things that we're talking a lot about right now at the Mom Project is what we're calling the gender backslide. We know that 60% of pandemic-related job losses were held by women. And in September alone, nearly 1 million women left the workforce as our child care system really dismantled, and many child care centers were forced to shut their doors, and parents were transitioning to remote hybrid education. Liz, I'd love to come back to you. Talk about what can companies be doing right now to stop this backslide from occurring? What can we be doing within our organizations to retain our female talent?
It's a great question. I think Rebecca alluded to some of it. I know Smita will have other comments on that topic as well, given her role. But I think, some key things are that it's incredibly important that we have plans in place to support parents. And I say parents and not just moms, because I really believe it's important that we change the structure of society, starting with the workplace. And that begins with supporting mothers and fathers. And so I'm a huge advocate of gender neutral policies in the workplace, because I think it makes it easier for moms to take leave and come back, because everybody who has a child takes leave and comes back. In other words, it's not such a big difference if you're a working mom versus a working dad. And that's something we see being really advantageous. Another thing I think important in terms of retaining people during this time is you've got to give people flexibility and manage expectations and provide reassurance that it's not all going to fall apart for you in your career if 2020 wasn't your breakout performance year, right? I think there's so much anxiety, and that there are people who, they may not know what their employer can do to help them without asking, and they may be self-selecting out of the workforce. So some options include things like paid family leave. Lots of companies have expanded paid family leave to include circumstances where you've got to take off time to help kids with school or stay home because schools are closed and that kind of thing. There's also expansions through COVID that a lot of companies have access to. And so folks should be making sure that they're talking to their HR departments before exiting, because there may be options. But I think paid family leave, more flexibility, gender neutral policies are the kinds of things over time that mean, look, we have a childcare crisis in our country, and it may persist for some time. We don't know when everyone's going back to school, and those are facts. But the fact that it's disproportionately hitting women so much more than men is really a failure of our society to recognize the extent to which everybody is involved in that village. Men are involved in that village, women, people who identify as neither gender. In other words, it's important that our policies recognize that we all need to help each other care for children. And so I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Liz, you're absolutely right. And when you're talking about the gender neutral policies, that's exactly where the role modeling comes in, right? And I think one of the chat questions is there's backlash against some of the benefits, which is true, right? It is natural for people to kind of say, why is this group getting the extra benefit and the other group not getting it? And back to your question, Allison, about moms being at the receiving end and moms exiting the workforce, it's real data that you're alluding to. And I think what companies can do is there are you can divide it into two big buckets, right? There are programs and policies, which all companies can do, which is again flexibility, again making sure that there's Zoom fatigue. In our company at Zendesk, for example, we said take Wednesdays off Zoom calls, no Zoom calls on Wednesdays, take Flexi Fridays, enforcing it and saying it's okay, you need to take care of your family, moms, dads, caregivers, giving options for caregiving and giving that support system. Those are things that our company has done very well. But adding to that programs and policies is something that we all alluded to earlier, which is how do you build a culture where it's okay? How do you build a culture where anyone who takes benefit of those policies is not looked down upon? Oh, you walk out at 4 because you're a mom. No, you walk out at 4 because you could be a mom, dad, caregiver, pet lover, anyone, right? You need your time off and you're going out. So role modeling is very, very important, right? Dad's taking time off, which is why gender neutral policies, taking time out, off and talking about it is very, very important to create that culture. In our company, for example, our CEO and the top basically we call them the executive staff, they created a really fun, cool video of how they're juggling it all, right? Dads, moms, everyone. Our CEO sat with his 4 kids and said, this is the real struggle. But you know what? I'm quite enjoying this, not being on a plane and being with my children. I know it's a struggle to take investor relations call, but I love this, right? And really kind of humanizing the concept that we all have children or someone to take care of, and we all need to chip in and do our piece. And the last one, I know we touched on it earlier, where someone in the chat box also asked, what happens when you're not in the room? What happens when decisions are made for moms when they're not there to speak for themselves? Right? This is the onus for whether it's a man, woman, whoever it is, right? Regardless of your background, you need to be an advocate and step up for moms. A really cool example is in one of my companies that I worked with previously. There was this man who, again, you would never think he's this big advocate, right? He's not a big talker on diversity, equity, or inclusion at all. But he mentioned an episode where they were in a room calibrating talent, and they were talking about this mom who had triplets. She'd just come back to work. She had triplets. She came back to work at 10 weeks or 11 weeks, I think, didn't complete the 12 weeks of maternity leave. She was back at work and she was pitching in for a big role. And they were discussing, in a room full of men, they were discussing if she would be a good fit. And he remembered another man saying, she just had triplets. How is she going to do this big role? And this man stood up and said, she just had triplets. He can do it. Nobody else can do it. She's the only person who can do this, right? If she can have triplets and come back to work full-fledged 11 weeks, trust me, she can get this done. He spoke up when she was not in the room. And guess what? She's the general manager now. She's proven it that she can do it. And again, each to his own. I'm not saying 11 weeks is a good time to come back, or, take your time, do your thing. But if you're not a working mom, or if you're a working mom, if you're in a room, advocate for working moms. That is very, very important.
I love that. Amazing. Any recommendations for women who maybe don't have managers who are role modeling that type of behavior? What would you tell them? Yeah. Oh, keep it with you, Smita.
Yeah, you have to meet people where they are, right? Not everybody is in the same place in the journey. So it is going to be difficult, especially if your manager is not very open or empathetic, or maybe does not have parents or children or anyone to, really go back home to. So it is going to be difficult. I think at that time you need to be practical about, here are the things that I bring to the table. It's not about the number of hours that I show up in front of a screen in this case, or in the office. Here are the output. Let's just have an output driven discussion. Here are the outputs I'm going to commit to you to deliver, but I'll do it after my kids are down. Make it practical and take the person along the journey, right? I've done that in my own life. I've had managers who've not been super supportive, but then I've had to say, you know what, I would love to at least once a week go pick up my kids from school. I mean, the cheer and the joy of their faces when they light up and say, mom's coming to pick up on Friday afternoons, that's a big deal. But guess what? Once they're settled at home, I'll log back in and finish it, right? So just to kind of contextualize and explain, to say, I'm not slacking at work because I'm leaving at 4. I'm going to cover up later on, but maybe I'll do it on a Saturday or a Sunday, but you will have it Monday morning. So keeping it objective and output driven discussion helps bring managers along who may not naturally get it.
That's amazing. And I love the shift towards outcome results based culture. I think it is the answer to so many ills. Rebecca, imagine you have such an interesting perspective on this, given your purview of so many global customers. Would love your thoughts on how you see that shift happening.
Well, I love the advice Smita gave, because I think one of the things that is super helpful in cultures that are ingrained is this whole notion of reverse mentoring, right? And companies that are really open to that, I think, benefit from a generation of individuals or segment of people who have challenges now, particularly in this crisis, and making others more experienced or different cultures aware of the issue. Because and a lot of times, yes, there's plain old ignorance. We've all faced it, right? And that ignorance that doesn't change. But that's not the most common thing we all face, right? It's just a lack of understanding. And I think that reverse mentoring and bringing that challenge to the forefront is is important. And in today, it's certainly not the case because of the higher unemployment that we're seeing as a result of the pandemic. But in environments where unemployment has been low, pre-crisis, people leave with their job, their skill. And I think the best advice I can give folks is in today's world, if you are not getting the right support from your employer, if you don't have corresponding benefits or the flexibility, there's a better one next door. This is a competitive marketplace. Deanna she could probably go anywhere she wants and write her own ticket right now. Use that. If you have the skills and the experience, there are employers out there that are building programs to attract all the moms that are on these calls today. And sometimes, Allison, our own confidence keeps us from realizing what's really possible, and that we could go to the place that does value us as moms and single moms and different work types, and make it. And those are great places to work. And I think post pandemic and things, and the job market gets better. I'm not suggesting all of you go out and quit your jobs and sort of find the next one, but I am suggesting that you're far more marketable than you may be giving yourself credit for.
Amazing. Very inspiring, Rebecca. I'm seeing a lot of positive comments in the chat as well. Thank you very much. I think we've got time for one last question. So I'd love to have all of you answer how does being a mom make you a better manager, a better leader? And I'll start with you, Deanna.
I definitely think I'm very nurturing, and I think that, most of us as mothers are, but we can multitask, like we're master multitaskers as well. But for me, and I mentioned this before, just getting the opportunity to really know people as individuals. And, I don't like to age myself, but my team that's coming in now, a lot of them are college students, right? Coming out of college for the first time, and they need a lot of guidance. And sometimes it's not just work, it's life, and so it does help me. It just helps me be able to manage people's personalities, but also I've become like a master at task management and things, because I have to manage and balance my own life, and so you being able to bring that to work also allows me to really be successful at driving technology projects, stepping back and kind of seeing where things or might be falling through the holes and being able to have to pick that up. And it's very similar to what, I do as a mom, and just really quickly, if you don't mind, because I did see this in the chat, I want to just also make sure I'm addressing that the single mom factor and why I did not bring that up before, and why I probably hold it away from a lot of people, is there is an aspect of me being a Black woman as well, right? And so I do think that we do feel like that is an additional negative, especially in the technology world. There's not many of us in general. So, it's making sure that didn't get layered in as something that also holds me back. So I just wanted to, I know that wasn't your question, but I wanted to make sure I addressed that because I saw that in the chat. And I think I was being a little afraid to really bring that up, but I wanted to get that out there.
Thank you. I'm really glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deanna. Incredible. Rebecca?
So this is easy for me. I think the reason I'm better is because as a mom, and I know all the moms feel this way, is you want to make the world a better place for your kids. If there's one thing that you go to bed at night thinking about is how do you make it better, whether it's a better pair of shoes for them or whether it's, you know, an environmentally safe world for them. And so your motives, you know, every single day are about making the world a better place. So what better way to come to work, right? With that attitude and with a, you know, in today's society with an ambition that reaches all stakeholders, right? Which is what I know companies are focused on today.
Super inspiring. Thank you. Liz?
Well, I don't want to repeat what's been said, so I'll share a quick story. Growing up in Philadelphia, which is a big sports culture known for booing, among other things, my mom always said to me, "We don't boo." And I said, "What do you mean you don't boo?" And everyone would start to boo. And she said, "We don't boo because the other team has mommies too." And I thought, well, what does that even mean? And then I had my child, and I don't know how many of you felt this way, but I felt like my heart split into like a million pieces and was open and vulnerable to every child in the world that had ever lived, was ever going to live, and their parents, right? This huge swell of empathy that the birth of your own children bring. It's why moms are important politically. It's why moms are important on so many topics, because we know that whether we're talking about the ways that single motherhood impacts us, or the way that queer motherhood, or the way that Black mothers suffer twice as much from work impacts, as Diana was mentioning, all of these things together, we know that we have more of a bond together as mothers than any of the ways that anyone would try to divide us. That caring for one another and caring for each other's children the way that we care from our own is the way that we build a better future together. And once that happened to me, that made me a better lawyer, because I realized that my job in being a lawyer is to help us come to a place that we can all walk away and feel okay and feel good. My job is not always to win. My job is not always to follow a policy. My job is to connect with a human being and to express empathy and to say, here's where we are, here's what we think. And it might be a tough conversation. My job involves terminating people. It's not easy. But at the end of the day, the deep empathy of motherhood to me means this incredible connection that I do think makes me better at my job.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liz. Well said. And Smita?
Yeah, it's so beautifully said, Liz. So, and all of you, Diana, thank you for sharing that and taking that plunge to kind of put it out there that yes, being a mom of color, it has its own kind of added layer that you're going to dealing with. So thank you for saying that. So yes, for me, I'm not a very patient person. So what motherhood brought to me was the first P, which is patience. Right? Like last night, I have a deadline to submit. I'm trying to figure this out and get my 5-year-old to sleep, the 6-year-old to sleep, and she's just saying, "Let me read this book to you." Slow, very, very slow. So you can imagine it's like, okay, just go to bed, right? I'm being extremely patient. So patience is the number one feature that I've kind of feel like I've gained, an ability to be calm in any circumstance that you bring to work as well, right? There are many different personalities at work and you have to be patient. The other thing that I've learned since becoming a mother is persistence, right? Nothing like little people showing you that one must keep trying and failure is not an embarrassment, right? Little people from beginning to start walking and crawling and everything, that there is no shame in failure. They're persistent till they succeed. And when you see a little person try so hard, you bring it back to work and say, you know what, it's okay. It was just one failure. It's no big deal. It's not the end of life. You move on. Right. And the third P that my children have taught me, and being a mother, is and the most important part is perspective. Right? Type A, ambitious. Let's go get that next gig, get that next contract. Let's just do it. And then you come home and see those smiles, and even if you lost a contract, or if you lost that big gig or that big promotion, you see those smiles, you see your happy, healthy children, and you feel like that's what matters in life. Perspective. So yeah, those are my learnings as being a mom, and couldn't have learned it in a corporate world. So
Amazing. You women are so inspiring. I've got to figure out how I'm going to get all of these quotes scattered throughout my office, because this is certainly the inspiration we all needed to hear today. Thank you so much. So beautifully said. At the Mom Project, we know we bet on moms, and you all are just evidence of the power of moms. So thank you so much for sharing your honest, sincere, heartfelt stories. It means the world to me that you've chosen to join us this afternoon. I appreciate it so much. Hiba, I'll hand it back over to you. I see that we've got some questions in the chat bot. Do we have a little bit of time to get to some of those?
Yes, we do. And I just want to thank you all again. That was amazing. I literally have chills. And just like you, Allison, I'm like writing down quotes myself. So I want to move to the Q&A. But before we get to that, I want each of you to finish this sentence for me. Hire moms because, and then, so Allison, finish that sentence for me.
Because moms are the best.
There's no lie there. Okay, Smita?
Mute. Well, moms definitely know the best. No, seriously, there's just so much a mom can do, right? She's a multitasker, a lifter, a warrior, a soother, a learner, a teacher, all at the same time. Hire moms.
Love that. Okay, Liz, hire moms because.
They are highly efficient and they know how to focus on the most high value, impactful work first because they have to get home.
Yes, love that. Okay, Rebecca.
Hire moms because they will make you better.
Yeah. 100%. And then Deanna.
I'm just gonna say because we rock.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So the first question is, what advice would you share with someone forming a workplace mom or parent community or affinity group? And either any of you guys could take that, Liz or Smita.
What's the question? How do you start an affinity group? Sorry.
What advice would you share with someone who is forming an affinity group for moms or parents?
Yeah, start with a core group of people who really want to focus on the core values that you're trying to solve for, right? Again, remember, this is a business setting. In the business setting, in the context of the business, what is this mom group going to offer to the employees that you're forming the group for and to the business? So keep both those angles in mind as you're forming the group and have a structure, right? It's not a it is a voluntary group, but it's not a group that you start and then forget about it. So have a structure, have goals, have a very methodical approach to it, just like you would do any other business group.
Thank you. And Liz, if you have anything else you want to chime into that.
I agree with everything Samantha said. I would say try to have a leader too, because it can be helpful to have somebody who's a designated person to be the advocate. Could be some of the early advocacy efforts might be in terms of the recruiting efforts or the benefits offerings. They might start in HR, but over time you could see them spreading to revenue driving impacts of the business. So when you think about forming affinity groups or ERGs, think about who might be a leader. And then as the group grows, could be a leadership team that can help facilitate what are ideas coming out of the ERG community that can be connected to the business teams to affect sort of actual process or policies where you might want to drive change.
Love that. Thank you. Okay, the next question, and we could go around to everybody. What advice do you have for an employee who wants to continue working from home and with flexibility when their company is asking them to return to the office? So I'll let any of you guys jump into that one.
I'll take a crack at that, Hiba. Look, I think today we've proven that you don't have to work in the office. So for that particular individual asking the question, if that's been a positive experience for you and your employer, I would absolutely address it with your manager and ask not to return and to prove you can keep up your productivity. Don't ask, don't go back and ask later, right? And maybe don't even ask, because I think today we're in an environment where, people aren't really making folks go back to the office now in this environment. You have a lot of flexibility. And if you're enjoying that, I think you can prove that you're continuing to be productive at home and show those proof points. I think Samita talked about that output discussion earlier, and I think that would be a time to resurrect that.
Anybody else have anything for that one?
I mean, I would say that's exactly the thing that you should do, is talk to your employer. And then, you know, if it becomes a situation where they don't want you to stay home, you know, even see if there's some compromise where you can stay home some of the time or work out. Maybe I come in the office 1 or 2 days a week. I think with the current state of the country, especially with children being home, most companies, and if you're a company listening, your company should be flexible to that, you know, because a lot of moms or just parents in general have to stay home with their children right now.
Okay, so we have like 5 minutes left. I can't believe how quickly the time goes when we have amazing women just dropping gems on us. I just want to conclude this with, if you have anything to leave to our community today, to the people watching, we have almost 300 people that are watching us live. What would you want that to be? What would you leave people with today through this discussion? And I'll let each of you go, but if there's just one piece of advice, one piece of just that one gem that you want to leave everyone that with today, what would that be?
I think, you know, from my perspective, hopefully this forum proves that you're not alone, and a community is super important, and to use your community.
Yeah, I would say leave the guilt, right? Try your best to leave the guilt behind. I know it's very, very hard. As a working mom, I have the guilt. All of my girlfriends and this cohort that really supports and cheers for me, some of them probably are on the call. We're all working moms. We all have the guilt. We know that we have it, right? So try and leave it as much as possible. You're doing the best you can. You heard it from all of us. You heard it from some of the panelists saying that, on the chat, saying that, you know, the kids grow up okay, they'll be fine. So leave the guilt and just go be a rock star that you were born to be.
I would say find joy in your journey, you know. So tacking on to leave the guilt, you know, we have an idea of what we think our life is going to be. And, you know, as moms, things go into different paths. And if you get off track, it doesn't mean that you can't get back on track. So never give up on where it is that you're trying to go. Just, you know, if you got to stick a pin in it for a minute, then just say, I'm going to get back to that. You know, a lot of moms are leaving the workforce forever, and don't feel like if you have to step away for a minute that you can't come back. So I'll leave it at that.
Mine would be for the leaders on the call who are in a position to hire, influence culture, manage a team. Don't count moms out. Tiana's example of maybe the promotion, she was overlooked because they thought that she wasn't ready for work-life balance. Like nearly 1 million moms left the workforce last month. We need people now more than ever advocating for us, advocating for ways for us to stay in the workforce. If we don't take bold action, we're looking at wiping out over a decade's worth of progress in gender equality. So bet on mom.
I guess I'll end with a short story. A friend of mine used to work for Michelle Obama during the first term of the Obama presidency, and she was a press secretary to Forever Flotus. And at the end of that job, she could have gotten any communications job anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, but she was worn out and exhausted from 4 years on plane. And what Michelle Obama said to her was, and I carry this with me every day, it came three ways to me, but you need different things from your career at different points in your life. Sometimes you need to earn as much as you can because you're the sole breadwinner of a family. Sometimes you need maximum flexibility because you have tremendous caregiving responsibilities. Sometimes you're really feeling ambitious and you can stretch and reach and focus. And sometimes you're feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and you need something that's more, you know, keep the lights on. And so I just think echoing that point of giving yourself grace and space, like we've all been through a lot as moms generally, but we've been through a lot of late as well. And so to think really intentionally heading into 2020, it's like, what's the key thing that you need right now? Mm-hmm. And what are the workplaces, to Rebecca's point, that are out there ready, waiting to hire experienced, skilled moms in lots of different types of roles. But thinking about what you need right now for you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what an amazing panel of women. I'm so thankful to each and every one of you. We are so thankful to each and every one of you for spending your day with us today and just giving us an amazing session with these amazing tips for companies to better support working moms. Because, like you all said, working moms rock. And if you're not supporting them, you're losing valuable employees. So, thank you all for watching and attending. A recording will be uploaded to our YouTube page shortly after, and then an email with the link will be sent to you if you RSVP'd. So we just can't thank you enough. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and see you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.